All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to talk about uh, an odd uh, situation yesterday. So, Sauce Gardner was being interviewed, and the Giants and the Jets are gearing up for their. And as I'm saying that, starts barking again. So, the Jets and the Giants are getting ready to practice, or getting ready for their preseason game on Saturday, and had some joint practices. And there was this awkward moment where a reporter asked Sauce Gardner about Daniel Jones, and he called Daniel Jones a good quarterback. He said he's a good quarterback. You feel me? I thought I was about to pick him off today. I had a little cloud rep. He had looked at the last minute to try to throw the check down to Wan'Dale Robinson. I thought I had the pick, but he kept it. I mean, the competitive period, it was very competitive. It was great. I had fun out there today. I don't really know what to say. And then he also said, oh, and then this is what he said on social media. He said he's a good quarterback. I just got a little distracted with something mid-interview. And he said chill in his tweet. And again, you're going to have people that overreact to it and be like, oh, he doesn't think Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. I mean, it was kind of odd, but there are people that say, well, he got caught off guard by the question, because, I mean, I guess he didn't expect anyone to ask him that. I mean, it's going to be interpreted many different ways. Now, I could sit here as a Giant fan and say, yeah, I mean, he probably thinks a different thing than what he actually said, but he's not going to say it out loud. I'm really just going to say, you know what? I feel bad for Daniel Jones. I do. I'm going to take that stance because it's just you have the fan base that is, the part of the fan base that wants him to be gone, and Hard Knocks, the Giants were looking to trade up to get Drake May, and now you got this with Sauce Gardner. I mean, it's just Daniel Jones is now it's especially because it's where I am on the East Coast. Of course, it's going to be the topic of conversation, but all this outside noise. I mean, it's got to be getting to him a little bit because I mean. I would love to know how he feels right now at this moment with all of this going on around him. And on top of that, he's coming off of an ACL injury that, derailed his season. And, he missed a large chunk of the season. And now he comes back, his first game action, he throws 2 picks, almost threw 3. And again, the fans are all over him, and it's just, I mean, how is he going to respond to that? How is he going to respond to all of this? Because, I mean, you hear Brian Dable come on, and you hear Joe Shane, and they do, talk up Daniel Jones. They still say that they believe in him, and they also say that, especially Joe Shane on Hard Knocks, he talked about the offensive line that the Giants have had, and how really no quarterback was going to succeed around it or with that offensive line. Now, the offensive line actually has looked good so far this preseason, and the Giants got some weapons, and Malik Nabers looks like a stud. And I got the new Madden, and there's a lot of plays where I'm just throwing it up to Malik Nabers and hoping that he catches it. Because he's going to be a very good player for the Giants. You could just tell. Now, what's going to hurt him a little bit is, the quarterback position. Because Daniel Jones, I mean, look, he had time to throw. And there were times that he just held on to the ball. I mean, especially the pick 6. He had time. And didn't get rid of it in time. He's about to get sacked for a safety. He throws the ball to try to throw it away, and it gets picked off. So, there are people that will defend Daniel Jones and say, well, I mean, look at the offensive line, look at the weapons that he has. But now it seems like he's got weapons and he's got an offensive line. But if he does not play well this season, and those two things have improved, then yeah, that's all the more reason for the Giants to move off of him. But I want him to prove me and many others wrong. I want him to go out there and have a really good season, and the Giants, get back to being a more respectable team, the team that we saw more so in 2022. But until I see that, I'm of the mindset that they should move off of him after this year. And I think they will regardless. I mean, unless the Giants have this unreal year where they just go on a miraculous run and, go deep in the playoffs. But that's probably not going to happen. So that's really my take on it, because I'm not going to sit here and say, well, uh, Sauce Gardner got distracted, or Sauce Gardner, really meant that Jones was not a good quarterback. He was just saying that just to cover himself. I'm not going to sit here and say that, because you know what? I don't know. I'm not in that room. Did Sauce Gardner actually get distracted? Maybe he actually did. I mean, I know, listening to the local radio stations here, what if he actually did get distracted? What if he got caught off guard by the question? He didn't know he was going to be asked that question. But I mean, let's say, they asked him about, I'm not going to say Patrick Mahomes. Let's say they ask him about, like, Justin Herbert, right? They have a joint practice with the Chargers. I feel like, Sauce Gardner is going to give you a straight answer, like, hey, yeah, I mean, he's really good. But Daniel Jones is a very, I know, and look, maybe Justin Herbert's not the best example, because I know there's some people out there that think Justin Herbert isn't good. But I feel like more times than not, people are going to, speak highly of Justin Herbert. With Daniel Jones, yeah, more of a controversial. I don't even know. I don't want to say controversial, but he's more of a guy that you're not going to get. Yeah, I mean, he's really good, but that's what Sauce Gardner did. So I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say one way or another, because I just don't know. All I'm going to tell you is I just feel bad for Daniel Jones, because he's just been getting dragged around. But that's what it is, playing as a quarterback in New York, even though you're playing in your games in New Jersey, but still. And I will be seeing him in a couple of weeks in those uniforms. I cannot wait. And I really hope that he goes out there against the Vikings defense and he throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Malik Neighbors says 3 touchdowns. That would be great. But yeah, probably not going to happen. But I'm just hoping for a good game, and that the Giants hopefully win. So, and it's going to be a tough game. That's one of the few games I looked at on the schedule, and I'm like, yeah, the Giants can maybe win that game, because, I mean, it's either going to be Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy. But look at how the Giants have played. Well, how Daniel Jones looked in that first preseason game. I mean, if he plays like that in week 1, it's not going to matter who plays quarterback for the Vikings. So, but yeah, it's just, I really do feel for the guy, because he really, I mean, he seems like a great person, and he has had his moments, but unfortunately for him, the bad has kind of outweighed the good. And I just don't think he's the answer for the Giants. And that doesn't mean that I don't think he could go elsewhere and be better elsewhere. I just think where he was picked and just the team that he was brought into, because, I do think Joe Shane and Brian Dable will figure it out. But, the past GMs with Gettleman, well, really Gettleman, and then you had Joe Judge and Pat Shurmur. And the Giants just didn't draft well, and they didn't, bring in guys to really help this team through free agency. Daniel Jones was set up to fail. And you could say the same thing about Zach Wilson. But, Yeah, I mean, who knows if they end up on a different team? Are we having these conversations? Or are they? Do they turn out better? I mean, again, we could play that game with so many different players in all different sports, but it's just you feel for Daniel Jones, and I just hope that whatever happens this year, I mean, I'm hoping he doesn't embarrass himself and he goes out there and he has a decent year, and then he could go elsewhere in a better spot. Maybe be a backup somewhere and find a better path with another team as opposed to with the Giants. But it's just it's like I said, you feel for the guy, and I just hope things work out. I mean, again, we'll see what happens this year, but I lean more towards Giants are moving off of him and they're gonna find somebody else. So, but yeah, I when it comes to this Sauce Gardner stuff, I mean, I'm not gonna overreact to it. I'm not. Um, it could be many different things. His reaction to the question. I mean, you could say, he went to social media and, used that as damage control, but I don't know. I'm just gonna say we don't know. We could just assume. I mean, in my mind, I think what he said is not what he truly meant, but I don't know. I'm not gonna make that assumption one way or another. I'm just, I just feel bad for Daniel Jones. That's really what it comes down to. So we're gonna take our final break of the show now. When we come back, I will do my final rankings. We'll do the receiver groups within the AFC West. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.